Hi, my name's Anthony Hines. For the last 40 plus years, I've been trying to help people with their career, to develop their career, so they're the ones who get the award in the front of the room. They're the ones who get accolades. They're the ones who get ahead. They're the ones that get promoted. They're the ones that get noticed. Why? Because experience not shares, experience wasted. Remember, people, your career is your responsibility. It's not anybody else's. If you sit back and wait for somebody else to take care of your career, you're wasting valuable time, okay? That's an opportunity cost. For all the time you waste, it's a wasted opportunity for you to go out there and try to develop yourself, because your career is your responsibility. I want to talk to you today about a little bit about the mindset that when you get laid off, you think you're the only one this has happened to. And believe me, when you're going through it, you feel like you're the only one it's happened to. You feel like there's nobody else out of work, and you feel like that there's nobody calling you, and you feel like that it's very, very alone and can be very, very tough. And I don't question any of that. But I want you to understand that it's not you. It's business today. People that are older, they watch their parents stay in jobs for 40 years and retire with gold watches or retire with pensions and the like, and that's what your expectation was. But the reality is that sometime in the 2000s, the rules kind of changed. Why? Because companies realized that their healthcare costs were going to go up and that their workforce was getting older. And they needed to do something about it so that they wouldn't have these crazy long-term costs that were going to strangle their company. You still see that in some cases, but very, very few. So the point is that what companies learned to do was how to really pare down their workforce without getting sued. Now, it took a long time to do it because companies had to find their niche, so to speak, regarding layoffs, right? Because people sued, sometimes people thought they did it on age discrimination and the like, right? But what happened was, over time, all of these court cases and laws changed, and lobbyists worked on laws at the federal and state level to really make it easier to outsource and to really make it easier to lay people off. What you see now is you can't say it's age, because there'll be 3 out of 50 that are people that are under 40 or something, right? Or there might be a few diverse candidates involved, so you can't say it's a certain group. But my point to you is this: it happened because businesses had to survive because of the fact that they had too many people, and they realized that the cost of all these people was going to strangle them. I mean, that's the first thing you have to understand, that businesses did this to survive. And the point of the matter is that you'll see that companies, when they did this, they kind of cut to the bone, right? Because they didn't realize, I think anyways, that people didn't realize that if you let so many people go, you're losing too much knowledge. So what happened was, then companies said, okay, we have to outsource because we got to get the work done, right? So we'll go find cheap labor somewhere in some country and we'll figure it out. Okay. Now, for some companies, outsourcing worked. And it really did work, because the tasks that were given to the outsourced companies were tasks that they could handle, and companies limped along until they were able to recover. But what happened then was, what about the companies that outsourced to companies that weren't able to handle their work? Those companies basically took a torpedo. They took a torpedo right to their hull. Why? Because they thought they were smart and they thought they could get away with cutting costs and outsourcing and the like. But here's the deal, people. You have to understand, the people that make the decision to do that usually are not around to see the repercussions because they've left the company to go do this somewhere else. So when you sit there and you say, well, they'll see, a lot of times job seekers will see, well, they'll notice, they'll realize the mistake they made, maybe they'll call me back, right? Or they'll see it was a big mistake. You don't want to look at it that way. You know why? Because the person that made that decision, he's probably going to leave. Why? Because that's why he was brought in. You have to understand, people. Sometimes people are brought in to do the tough cuts, to do the tough things that the long-term bosses couldn't do. And I'll be honest, if you're working in a company and you've had a long-term CEO and you have not had layoffs, a really long-time CEO, and that CEO is replaced, get ready. Downsizing is coming. Right-sizing is coming. Why? Because the person coming in doesn't have any loyalty to anybody. That person doesn't know you, doesn't know anybody else. They're there to cut costs. They're there to make their bonus, right? So the fact is that it's all business because they had to survive. But what I'm telling you is these companies had to go through these failures because 99% of companies, they learn things the hard way. They think, people that make the decision on these types of things, they're not affected. They're in accounting. They're in finance. They're in other areas. They're not in operations. They're not in projects. They're not in the areas that are affected. So it's no big deal to them. They just see the bottom line. But companies had to go through this to be able to understand what the failure was and what they shouldn't do. And the fact is, nobody targeted you, okay? Nobody targeted your group. Nobody targeted a specific person just because they didn't like them or anything like that. This was business survivorship. And the fact is, if they cut too deep like 90% of the companies do, oh well, they'll have to figure it out. So what happens is that what I've seen happening, our people are going back to their old companies after 6 months or a year. Maybe they get a job, maybe they don't. Sometimes they go back as a consultant. Sometimes they go back after a year, as an employee in another group. It's an option. I'm not saying it's going to happen to everybody, but that's why you always want to stay in touch with your old company. Because what if they get a new contract? What if they turn the ship? And what if they need you back and you're out? But if you're not in touch with them, how are you going to know that? The fact is your old company is an option because sometimes they had to learn the hard way that what they did was a mistake. Okay? So that's why you cannot ever close the door on anything when you're out there. You cannot close the door on anything because what I always tell you is the next job could be the best job you've ever gotten, right? And sometimes companies realize after they've done the layoffs, I know what's happened with me, where management had said to other management, I know I've been told, gee, I didn't realize Anthony did this much, or I didn't realize Anthony was that important. I know it. I've said it. I've been told after I was gone. But you know what? What good is that? I'm out, right? Just like, it's kind of like the worst thing I could be told, right? So my point is, though, understand that keep your options open with your old company. Because if they're cutting to the bone, they're going to realize they made a mistake. You may want to be available if they're looking for people to come back, okay? But it doesn't mean it's the only company you look for, and you stay around and you hold on and you wait. That's crazy. My point is you look everywhere and you do everything that I tell you in all my podcasts. Just stay in touch with your old company, because they could do a U-turn, people. They could get a new contract. They could realize they've cut too far. They could realize that the outsourcing deal they made was a mistake. Okay? And you know what? After the period that you can't go back, and I don't know, every company has a different mindset on that. Who's to say you can't go back as a consultant? Because you know what? They're going to really need you. Okay? And, consultancy is not a bad thing. But the fact is, instead of thinking about how could they do this to me, you got to let the process work through. You got to go forward, look for your new position, and you got to keep your eye on your own career, but also stay in touch with your old company. Because if they ever do a U-turn and they ever need you back, you could make out in that deal. Okay? Instead of being mad at them or angry or sitting there, how could they do this to me, and all this madnessly foolish crap. The fact of the matter is, be smart. Think about the fact that if they do cut too much and they need you to come back, maybe you go back in a better place than you were in before. Okay? But again, that's only one option of where you can go in your next position. What I'm telling you is, never forget that it is an option. Okay? Remember, people, companies learn the hard way. You can tell them all you want. Somebody made the decision, and somebody got a big bonus, and somebody saved the company money, and they're probably not going to be around when it all falls apart. That's just the way it is. Okay? If you want my article, go to LinkedIn, my LinkedIn profile, Anthony Hines, and go get my job search article on LinkedIn. It's really good. It's got a ton of recruiters. It talks about my group. It's all kinds of awesome. It's really great. I've put a lot of time into this. And so, I want you guys to understand, I've done this stuff over the last 10 years because being unemployed is horrible. I never forgot that terrible feeling, that terrible nightmarish feeling that I felt all the time when I was out of work, of what I was going to do. And all I do in my podcast is keep telling you what I would do. I don't tell you to do it. I just try to keep you focused on what you're trying to do. Go to my LinkedIn profile, get my article, follow the steps. Thousands of people have done it. Why not you? Follow me on Podbean. Become a patron. Because you know what? All my patron money, I'm going to be advertising more, because I want to get the word out to people, because unemployment's horrible. And remember, people, I want to end unemployment one person at a time. So remember, companies learn the hard way. You can tell them 100 times, just be around when they come back or they realize that they may need you back. Okay? If in fact you're able to do it, that's on you. Look forward to your new positions in other companies, but always, always stay in touch with your old company, because you never know when the company makes a U-turn, realizes they've cut too far, and realizes they need what you offered. It could happen. It happens to a lot of people. Just keep it open as an option for you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye now.